Okay, my outstanding friends, this is pretty interesting, to say the least. I've just been getting into the ancient texts about the gods, which were planets, and Mars was a god, and appears that it got impacted here. This runs almost the entire width of the planet, and it's a terrible gouge. And this area right here, I believe, is electrostatic discharge at the beginning of the impact, and then it's sort of scrubbed into it, and then it's sort of trailed off. Now, don't forget, when you take Mars, it's just like any other planet. It spins on its axis. Okay? Can you see that? Let me back out of there. All right, you can see a planet obviously spins on its axis and it goes through the atmosphere. Now, where did Mars get impacted? Did it get impacted coming this way, or did it get impacted going with the spin? All right, it appears to be a heavy-duty electric discharge, and then more or less of an impact. So coming up to it, it's going to go and push against it. And that's what we'll see. Well, let's take a look at that. Okay, my friends, this is going to be fun. I have been digging deep into the ancient texts about the gods and the planets and how they really took over the solar system, and they had battles and all kinds of crazy things, and it appears to be pretty accurate. Now, one of the things was about Venus being born from the feared god Jupiter, literally born, and it came and almost hit Earth. It took 7 days, approaching Earth, heated up Earth, like almost burnt the whole Earth up, and boiled the waters and all kinds of stuff, created all my mud fossils, created Caesar here in perpetuity. Now, what else happened? I believe after it almost destroyed Earth and killed literally almost everything on Earth, it came and either hit Mars or worked with Saturn, and somehow Mars was impacted. And here's the impact crater. Now, I've been looking at this a little bit. I'm just getting into studying it so you can study it with me. I believe this was the impact, and then it had all kind of electric discharges just as it was impacting, and then it sort of bounced more or less off. Because don't forget, Mars will be spinning, and Venus is spinning, and there's going to be an interaction between our atmospheres, which will create electric discharge. That's no question, because the spinning, electrically spinning, rubbing each other's atmospheres, and soon you're going to have a lot of discharge, just like lightning. Exact same thing. When you have a lot of compression of the atmosphere, you get lightning. That's what you're going to have. And that's what I see first. And then I see more or less of a, well, let's look at it together and we'll try to figure it out. Okay, my friends, as you might know, I've been studying Mars and posting on it for a while, and relating it to the ancient texts about actually battles in the heavens, and Velikovsky's account of how Earth was almost hit by Venus, and then Venus went on to disrupt other planets in the solar system, and I believe it may have impacted with Mars. That's just a guess, but I can tell you what, as far as I can determine, that is an impact. Okay, my friends, when you're going to see the scar on Mars, this is what causes it. You have two masses of particles. They push each other hard against each other, and when they do, it just pushes the electrons into the other one and just like burns into it, and that's what causes all that webbing on there. So now here's a little closer shot. I believe this was basically the impact zone of a crushing against here, and then sort of electrical discharges into this area, and then more or less sort of an impact, and then more or less of a scrub and bouncing off and taking off. That's all I can say. You see that? those little spiky looking things, those I believe are electrostatic discharge into the ground, literally frying the ground. And you see this in patterns of electrostatic discharge onto different photographic plates and things like that. They make the exact same patterns. Alright, basically all you're seeing is lightning burnt into the ground. It's just forcing those electrons in so bad, and they do that. Alright, here's a real good shot of what I consider to be an electric discharge. That's what I would assume as if it was all a single event, and I believe it was. This is not erosion or anything. This is just, these things are exactly what I would expect to see from an excess amount of electrons trying to force their way into this material, whatever it happened to be. And it's probably, you know, sand and dirt and all that same stuff, which is on Earth. Same sort of stuff. When this was alive, it was just like Earth. Same thing. And I could show you all the same anatomical features, because Earth is an anatomical creature just as well. You know, somebody's going to have to wake up and start to, you know, smell the roses here. This is crazy. All right, let's think about this logically. This is where it would discharge its electrical potential. It's gone now, basically. This appears to be, you know, sort of a bump zone. It appears to be like it's almost an impact, and it's squished out this way, a little bit this way, and sort of bumped up, and it's more or less plowing its way through, and then it ends up just finishing up at the end and more or less bouncing off. Now, I don't know if this was, I don't think it was actually touching, but who knows? This is like 5 miles deep, more than that, something like that. And the whole thing runs, like they say, it's almost like the same thing is running all the way across the United States, from New York to California. It's huge. It's absolutely enormous. It didn't just happen by accident. And this is, like I say, discharge of electricity, oomph, that goes. That's the way I'm seeing it. All right, and this, I believe, is right at the other end, and it's just kept on going. All right, this is a pretty good shot. Remember, I'm saying it's coming in this way, electric discharge, sort of a oomph, and then it's almost like pushing in and pushing up all this stuff. It's like 5 miles deep, and it splayed it all out there, and then it just kept on going. So that's the debris field after the almost impact. Now, you know, it must have been really close, but I don't think it was actually into the Mars surface, but who knows. Okay, this was from the Curiosity mission. Remember this, the Mars crab. We're going to go into a couple of these things very deeply. All right, there's the Mars Morse code. We're going to look at that in detail as well. Here's the Mars blueberries. Exact same thing as the Moki marbles here on Earth. They're all over because the biology is all over. They drove through this field of blueberries, which is interstitium balls. Okay, here it is right here. This is the Mars Morse code, is interstitium. Here's what the Mars blueberries are, and these are the blueberries as well. They're microscopic in us, you can't even see them. Here's what the Moki marbles are on Earth in Utah. Exact same as these, exact same as these, exact same as these, of course different sizes. This is Hunstanton Cliffs in the United Kingdom. That is the mucosa, which in this case happens to be skin, I believe, and below here is the interstitium, and these balls have eroded out and fallen down into what now is mud, because this is what happens to the red flesh. It turns into red mud. And these had the same situation, only that mud ran off. Up on Mars, it just gets dusted off. Here, there's all mud around the edge, which I could show you, and I might. And I'm going to show you some close-ups of Mars and the crab. And, well, let's take a quick look. Okay, this is the Mars blueberries. This is, I think it's manganese, I can't remember, but it coats around like a red core. And these are what is in the interstitium. This is the basement layer of skin. In between there and above is the flexible stuff that lets your skin move around but comes back to where these were anchored. Now, of course, they're all just floating around. And that gets blown off just like sandblasted. Those are the Mars blueberries, the same as the Moki marbles in Utah. They're everywhere. Now, here's where I can show you some extreme detail. That is an artery. This is not crab legs. Those are blood vessels that lead from arteries directly into muscle tissue and so forth. A whole ton of them into your muscle tissue, which is what this is. And I'll show you that in extreme detail in a second. This is the eroded red flesh that erodes out from the sarcomeres, which are the muscle tissue. Now, down here is where that crab really is. All right, this is a blow up here, you see. Now, let's take a look at what's around this. What is this? Look at this carefully. Now, I'm going to draw this out for you. There's a block here, and a block here, and a block here. You see that? And then there's a whole bunch of other ones. But these are the most easy to see. And then you see all these little things here going all over the place and all over the place like this. All over. What is all that about? What's going on? Why are these breaks here and why are all these little tiny slots? You see them? I didn't draw those. They're already there. That's a pretty good job, though. Now, let's take a look at what it really looks like. Because I'm going to show you what muscle sarcomeres are. And that fed these muscles with blood. I have a specimen here virtually identical. See, like I said, I'm not a material scientist. This is what muscle sarcomeres look like. These are all those little connective tissues. And then there was red in between them that lets them pull in. This is all pulled together. This is relaxed. Those are muscle sarcomeres. And they are here on Earth as well, absolutely enormous as they are on Mars. You saw that Mars crab. That's gigantic. You see this? This is Petra. That's Petra right there. You see this? What do you think that is? They're muscle sarcomeres. These are all muscles. They're all muscles. And I'll show you right here. They carved right into them. This was just literally flesh. And that's Petra right there, carved into all of this gigantic landscape, which is nothing more than a mass of muscle. And here's the Petra on the outside. All right, look at this. This was like almost raw blood. They found a spot which was like the crab. And then the muscle sarcomeres ran off to the side. They carved in here because it had the most redness to it, the most red blood, easiest to carve. And they had some really top-notch carvers. But these are the sarcomeres. You see this? You should be able to see that. You see, these are the ones that pinch together. These are the blocks. You see them? Look up and down. Now take your time. That's the problem. People look at things and they jump. No, that's it, I'm done. I didn't see anything. If you take your time and look, you'll see. And all of this stuff, and where do you see what's inside the treasury? Because now we're getting back into where there's some connective tissue. This was like a big red blood spot. Basically, it was almost solid blood. Now, this is inside the treasury. And you're going to get into some, this is all connective tissue. The white stuff is connective tissue. Now, the red stuff, there must have been an artery right there. Because it was a convergence of three different, well, let's take one more look at it. And it's a convergence. But let me show you this first. This is up above, and this muscle everywhere. This is all muscle. All that white stuff is connective tissue, and the red stuff is the stuff that erodes away. And let's see, what's this? All right, that just shows up above and down below. And this is these are the sarcomeres. All right, and this stuff, this is really almost pure red blood. I don't see any connective tissue in here at all to speak of. But up here you see, and inside the treasury you see it. So they took just a giant scab. And it could well be. Look, you see what you're looking at here? Follow this down. Comes right to here. This one comes right to here. This one comes right to here. Somebody was feeding blood to all of these other taps, and that's the one right here. That's an artery. They carved an artery. All right, look at this now. And again, take your time. Just relax. Right there, right here, and right here, these three little round spots are arteries. This is the red artery blood. You see it leaking off and leaking off. This was completely filled with red blood. This would be where they would have carved Petra. And you see, this is like convergences of different tissue types and different arteries where they feed off. And, you know, I can't really exactly account for Petra, but I can tell you right now, it was carved out of almost directly out of the blood that congealed in an artery. That's what I would expect. That's what I suspect is the case. All that is blood. And here's the deal. These are all muscles. Now, if you could look at the sarcomeres in here, you'd probably find 10,000 of them between here and here. They're just absolutely tiny. Everything in the body is so tiny you have no clue. You think, oh, these are big blobs of muscle. No, they're not. They're bazillion to trillions, zillions of little tiny fibers that work together with. It's absolutely phenomenal if you start to really pay attention. And that's what I do, and that's what you will do if you stay around here and pay attention to what I'm showing you. Because I show them in great detail. I don't just breeze over anything. I can't. Something in my mind says, no, don't do that, because you miss everything. When you all of a sudden accept something right away, and you never even revisit it, almost everything that I originally assumed in my entire life was wrong. You know, if you look at it a couple, 3 times, and 4 or 5 times, and then you look at it in light of a whole bunch of other discoveries, you find out that you really got to start over again. And then make a decision, but don't, you know, you got to start over again. You cannot accept anything you've been told as 100% fact at this point. Maybe it is. And a lot of the stuff that's technical, absolutely. You know, gears work the way gears work. Airplanes work the way airplanes work. Rockets and space station, all that stuff, yes, absolutely, 100%. But when you get down into our ancient history and past, and what literally makes up physics, which is the 2 particles I show over and over and over and over, is just the muon and the electron neutrino, and between those two, it makes everything there is. So everything's a dipole. So all of this stuff you have to understand any of it. And then you have to relate it to the ancient texts. And then you have to see the things that are on the earth and in the earth that also support those ancient stories. And it's overwhelming. I agree. And as this one woman said to me, the stuff you present is jarring. Yeah, absolutely is jarring. What can I do? You know, and I'm going to tell you what, some people cannot be jarred. They're boxed. They're already boxed. They can't get into a jar. Oh, man. You know, when I say that some people, you know, cannot be jarred, well, what I find is most people that are willing to engage and look, they realize this is, I'm showing evidence that can't be denied. It's unimpeachable. Now, the only people I found that can absolutely deny the evidence are PhDs. I'm not kidding you. It's absolutely unbelievable. They're perfectly happy deluded. They just, you know, they can look at all this stuff that I have presented and say, no, that's not right. It's just all looks like what you're saying, and it just isn't right. Now that, to me, I just can't believe what I have run into for the last 12 years. I absolutely can't. So you take it for what you, whatever you think. But if you can be jarred, I don't think that's a bad thing.